Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sports Shorts Daily, presented by L'Auberge Casino. TK joining us on this Friday edition over at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, where he is every Wednesday and Friday on Sports Shorts Daily. I am at an undisclosed location presented by the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. We've got a big golf tournament in Oak Wing Country Club in Alexandria, May 14th. Big celebrity party on May 13th. So check it out. Go to lasportshall.com. We hope to see you there. And we're presented by L'Auberge Casino. L'Auberge Casino, where so much going on. You got Edge Lounge on a Friday and Saturday night. It's popping. Great live music beginning at 10 o'clock. It's grown-up stuff. You got to be 21 and over on the casino floor. Beautiful lounge. Great dance floor, excellent space. Plus, you go to 18 Steak for all your specialty dinners, whether it's an anniversary or a date night or celebrating something. 18 Steak is the place to go. All right, today on Sports Shorts Daily, we're going to talk about LSU baseball. They changed up their rotation. The Pelicans, 2 more games to go. They are looking good. Tommy's going to tell you, you might be surprised at how good they're looking. Also, the Masters, Bryson DeChambeau, the Live Golf Tour, puts up another golfer. He has a big day, -7. He's in first place. Hasn't teed off yet today. Tiger Woods was only +1, which was really good. 36th, I believe, in the rankings standings, which means based on that, does it again, should make the cut. But Tommy's going to tell you why he may not make the cut. Sam Burns, he's not played well the last month of the season, month of the year, month and a half. He hasn't been the same Sam Burns. He was +7, 79th place. That doesn't bode well for him making the cut. He would have to have a big round today. And O.J. Simpson died. 76 years old, Tommy? Is that the number? Yeah. 76, O.J. Simpson passed away. I've got some thoughts on that. I've got 2 O.J. Simpson stories for you. We'll get to that a little bit later on. Let's first start with the Masters. DeChambeau, I mean, like, these live guys, man, I guess they get a little extra juice, right, Tommy? I mean, maybe there's some benefit to only playing 3 rounds. They're fresh instead of playing 4 rounds like on the PGA Tour. They get to these events, they got juice to show what they can do. And DeChambeau, like, all of a sudden, who's this guy?
Yeah, I mean, he had a great opening round. He'll tee off a little later today. He was a leader after 1 round by 1 shot over Scotty Scheffler, who played his first ever bogey-free round at Augusta yesterday for Scheffler. He's the #1 player in the world. Should be a fun Friday. See who makes the cut, and then I look forward to the weekend. Tiger Woods had to start on the 14th hole this morning. Man, it was tough to just watch him. He could barely walk. He appeared to be in pain because he had the late finish, finished in darkness, had to get up very early, get out there. He teed off at 6:45 this morning. And, I mean, he just couldn't get loose. Dottie Pepper, the on-course reporter, was saying he just doesn't look like he did yesterday. He's very uncomfortable. And it showed the way he played. First drive, piped it right down the middle, nice little fade to the middle. But then after that, he struggled a little bit. Not like Jordan Spieth, who made a 9 on the 15th hole. But Tiger, I don't know. I would say he doesn't make the cut because he only had about 45-minute break, maybe a little more, before he had to go and play round 2. And the way I watched him play all that polls this morning. It doesn't look like he's a guy that's going to, be able to make the cut, in my opinion. Now, it depends on how far DeChambeau and Scheffler, how further under they might go. Because if they both back up a little bit, the cut could end up being +3 or +4. Got to be within 10 shots of the lead. If you're within 10 shots of the lead, you play on the weekend at Augusta. There's only 89 golfers in the field. So, and 10 of those have absolutely no shot, like Fred Couples and a few of those guys. It's great to have them there, but they're not going to make the cut. So that'll be a story. Does Tiger Woods and the whole live golf thing, 2 of the legends of the game, Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus, both commenting that, hey, they got to figure something out and get this thing put back together. There are those that say that will never happen. There are those that say it could very well happen.
Let me ask you, I don't know the answer to this. So you mentioned the cut is within 10 shots of the lead. So, I mean, like, what happens if Bryson DeChambeau goes 7 under again? And he's 14 under, it's within 10 shots
it's
minimum
it's,
have?
the top 50 golfers and anybody within 10 shots.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So the top 50 are going to get in, and then if you're number 51 and you're 11 shots out, you're not playing on the weekend. I should have been more clear on that.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, by the way, Louis Garcia went to the Masters yesterday, and he's there. He was there. He went yesterday. He's there today. I just talked to him a little bit ago. He said one of the greatest things he's ever done is get to go visit with Buzz on 10 fairway yesterday. He walked up on 10 fairway. Buzz was in his normal position in the chair as a gallery guard. His role is, if you watch number 10, now sometimes they move him around. He could maybe be around the fairway, but if by chance when they hit a drive on 10, it's a little dog leg left. Slight dog leg left. When they hit a drive on 10, where the ball lands is about where Buzzy is sitting, and so then he makes sure he's right there watching that second shot. Or if they happen to go a little left, usually he's on the left side of the fairway. He then moves the ropes or tells people to stand back or whatever.
So I was peeking for him. I was trying to catch a glimpse of him a few times when they showed the 10th hole yesterday. I was searching for Buzz in the yellow hat, but I don't think I saw him.
And then yesterday, Mike Hollander was working one green, but he most of the time usually works the box. But anyway, should be an awesome day. Really curious to see if Sam Burns, turns it around. At +7's not like him. Let's talk a little bit about the Pels. The Pelicans with a big win last night on the road at Sacramento, and big win on the road has been a theme this year.
Well, there are two teams that have the best road record in the NBA, 27-14. Two teams. One would be the Boston Celtics, who are one of the best teams in the league. Two, the New Orleans Pelicans. They're tied with the Celtics for the best road record in the NBA. They got another road game tonight. They'll play Golden State. Warriors are a 4.5-point favorite. NBA betting terms would tell you bet the Warriors tonight because it's a back-to-back road for the Pelicans, although Klay Thompson and Draymond Green are going to be a game-time decision for the Warriors. So maybe just root for the Pelicans, and then they're going to close the season. If they win tonight, if they knock off Golden State, and they're a slight underdog, the Smoothie King Center should be packed Sunday afternoon for their final regular season game. Now, it'll be the final round of the Masters, but I don't know. There's not a lot of crossover between NBA fans and golf fans. Certainly there's some, but that'd be interesting to have a full house for the Pelicans game on Sunday against the Lakers.
Yeah, if I go to the Pelicans game, watch LeBron James take on and Anthony Davis, get booed and take on the Pels and watch the Masters on your phone on the Masters app, which is the best app in sports. So that's what I would do. The Pels, by the way, in 6th place, one game ahead of the Phoenix Suns, who are literally a game behind. But I'm not sure but I think if they end up tied, Phoenix gets the tiebreaker. At least that's how it's always been.
They do own the tiebreaker against the Pelicans with what has happened this year.
Yeah, so basically the Pels have to win the next two, because I don't think Phoenix is going to lose.
Lock in that 6th spot, right, which means they would not be in the play-in.
Right. That would be impressive because these last 3 games are against winning teams that are, all have something to play for and are very good. So if they could win 2 of them on the road and then the Lakers at home, that would be earning it for sure. But anyway, it's huge to finish 6th or 7th. This is the most important position to be, 6th or 7th. And 6th, you're chilling. You're going to be in the playoffs, and you're resting up. Especially this team could use that rest with the injuries to Ingram and Zion. And if you finish 7th, you might be playing the Lakers again. You might be playing, who knows, who you're playing, Golden State, whatever. But it is going to be wild. But they got a big win last night, and we'll see what they can do against hopefully a slightly less manned Golden State team, but Golden State is literally tied for 8th with 3 teams. They've got everything to play for as well. So this is a tough spot on back-to-back road for the Pellies. Speaking of the road, LSU baseball got on that charter flight, must be nice, and flew to Knoxville, Tennessee. They are a big underdog against the 4th-ranked Tennessee Vols. The Vols have been playing and Fuego. They've been swinging it big time, just pounding teams. LSU shaking it up on the mound.
Well, I think he put Jared Jones leading off the other night, and I'm curious to see if he leads off tonight. I think he's just trying to get everybody's attention. I mean, coaches do that stuff in baseball, and he moves Jump up to tonight, and then Holman's scheduled to throw Saturday to be announced on Sunday. I haven't found a line on the game, but I'm thinking Tennessee would be a big favorite, or they're not going to put out a line because it'd be that big of a favorite. It would not a lot of people would play it, but LSU, nice win over McNeese the other night. Anytime you get a win, that's good. They hit the ball, a lot of big flies, got some decent pitching. But now it's this is not McNeese, this is Tennessee, as you said, Ronnie. They've been on fire. We all know the story, a lot of history between these two schools. And by the way, I can once again remind folks, my first win as a college pitcher came against the Tennessee Volunteers. So they have recovered from losing to my ass many years ago. But that was it never leaves my mind. That first college W on the bump in Hammond came against the Tennessee Volunteers.
Gage Jump through 4 starts in the SEC has an ERA over 6 in his SEC starts. Holman has an ERA of about 4.5. The LSU ace. So they both have been very average. Well, I mean,
and Lindsey Nelson Stadium is not a pitcher-friendly park. It's a hitter's park. So that's another challenge for Jay Johnson's Tigers.
To me, the biggest challenge and all they should be thinking about is throwing strikes, right? Make them hit solo homers, throw strikes. Their LSU's averaging giving up 5.5 walks per game. That's just way too many. And that's the biggest thing because, you got no shot if you don't throw strikes, especially, I mean, their staff ERA is 7.7 in the SEC. That's horrible. And the only way that's going to get turned around is if you throw strikes. And, that's how they got to do it.
Ronnie, speaking of solo home runs in the young MLB season, Mike Trout has 10 home runs. All 10 are solo shots. That's an oddity. All 10 bombs by Trout, which is a lot of bombs early in the season, are solo shots.
By the way, I apologize to Mike Trout because I wrote him off as done after the last 2 seasons. Like I thought the glory days of Mike Trout were over. We weren't going to see Mike Trout anymore be the guy that he was. And for him to have 10 home runs before tax day, I mean, that's Barry Bonds type stuff.
And it's all solo shots. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You see the message on the screen, Ryan?
Let's see. Mama Rance listening from somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. All right, so here's the deal. Mama Rance is on a transatlantic cruise, Tommy. Do you know what transatlantic means?
Yeah, you're going all the way to Europe on a boat?
There you go. So they flew down to South Florida, and her and some friends are on a transatlantic cruise, and they're going to go all over Europe. That's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah. One day when I grow up and come back in my next life, I want to be Mama Rance. So pretty nice. Have a great trip, Mom. Look forward to all the pics. All right. You mentioned Jump, Holman in the rotation. If Herring doesn't throw in one of the first 2 games because let's say maybe they're just losing, right? Like there's no sense in putting Herring in the game if you're down 4 runs or something like that. Obviously, they're going to pitch him if they have the lead or if it's tied or if it's even maybe 1 run down. They feel like they got a chance. Griffin Herring's going to probably get the ball in relief of Jump or Holman. But at the same time, like if he doesn't pitch, either because Holman goes a complete game or does great, you got to go with Herring to start on Sunday. If not, I don't know that it really matters. You got some big news out of Kentucky's got a new basketball coach, and it's not the household name that we all knew. It's a name that, of course, the Big Blue knew.
Mark Pope played in the mid-'90s, was on a national championship team, backup guy, been bouncing around a little coaching, most recently been at BYU where he's had some success. He's going home to Lexington, the Bluegrass State. They bring back a former player to be their head coach, not Billy Donovan or Nate Oates or Jay Wright and, Bobby Hurley. I mean, they go get Mark Pope. Probably got him a little cheaper than they could have got some of those other guys for, but he'll take over for Kentucky because, as everybody should know by now, Calipari is now the Arkansas coach.
This is an interesting hire. It reminds me a lot of, like a Johnny Jones, right? the hometown guy comes home, or the former player. And I always find it interesting in college how teams always put so much emphasis on connections and lineage, and did he play here, has he ever coached here, like, oh, he was the secondary coach 10 years ago, well, we got to get him, like, I mean, like, to me it's funny. I don't know, Mark Pope's going to work out or not. Is he really the best coach? I think he got probably a lot of love because he's a former player. um I don't know how much that matters, Tommy. I mean, does it matters because we know he's not going to jump for another job if he ever gets successful. He's going to stay there forever. But I don't know. I find it interesting that they went this way. You wonder how much finances played it. They didn't want to buy out other big time coaches and have to, pay $10 million a year. It might be part of
Well,
it.
the other thing, we talked about it earlier in the week on Sports Shorts Daily, they got turned down by a lot of people. They had I'm sure they made a lot of phone calls, not interested, or found out the buyout. They didn't get, but a lot of times at major schools, when a coach gets hired, it's not that first, second, or third name, or even fourth or fifth name that you hear who ends up getting the job. So, hey, time will tell. As you always say, let it play out. In 2 years or so, we'll know if that was a good hire by the Wildcats.
Big news yesterday in the world of sports, in the sense that when you heard it, you kind of paused for a minute, and that is the passing of O.J. Simpson, who, when I heard that he died, my first reaction was yes. And I know that's morbid, but this guy didn't deserve to live the last, 30 years or whatever. I mean, he literally murdered 2 people and got away with it. And was glad he did some jail time over, because of his annex in Vegas. Was hoping he was going to spend the rest of his life in jail. But I've got 2 stories. One was during the trial. My mom, who's sitting there on a transatlantic cruise across the ocean, she was really into it. We were living in Phoenix at the time as a family. She was watching a lot of the trial and kept up with it and everything. I was at that point in my life, got a chance to do the same thing, playing minor league baseball and whatnot. I had a little job on the side when I wasn't off playing, and would watch a lot of the trial, so kept up with it. And I remember when the verdict came down, I was in training for UPS. UPS was hiring some seasonal workers to help for like 3 months from, say, I don't know, like October, November, December, during the holidays type of thing. And I was in training for that, wearing the brown outfit, the shorts. I had the brown shorts on, had the brown shirt, and they were training how to use that pad. I forget what it's called. They use a special name for it that they call it. And we were doing like training on how to use the pad and all that kind of stuff. And we took a 5-minute break or whatever, bathroom break. They wheeled in the TV on the cart. And I was in the back of I was in the, like, it was a classroom type setting. You had a desk, or you were at tables or whatever it was. And I remember getting up from where the tables were. I was kind of in the back, and I walked to the front and literally Indian style sat, in front of the TV and watched the verdict, and was in absolute shock when he was found not guilty, because it was so clear that he was guilty. And then to see the reaction and the divisiveness rather, between the whites and the blacks in our country, and how, forget the fact that he murdered these 2 people. As an African American, they felt like, we've been wronged for so many years, and so many people have gone to jail that didn't do the crime because of racism, and that's accurate. That's all accurate history. But it still doesn't make it okay for a guy to get away with murder. And the irony is that O.J. Simpson traded in his African American card about 1982. He's probably whiter than you and I are, as far as he the way he lived his life, the way he had his friends. I mean, he married a white lady, all this kind of stuff. And so I don't think he identified with the African American community at all at some point in his life, and yet they adopted him. And then it was just this weird vibe. And I remember I was in shock. I was sitting on the ground staring at the TV, and then like the instructor was like, okay, let's get back to training. And I was just like, almost thinking to myself, no, I don't want to, I need a minute. Like, it was just so bizarre.
Well, I tell you, I remember where I was when that happened. There was an LSU weekly football press conference on the 5th floor of the administration building. Jerry DiNardo was the coach. we had a very crowded room. And I remember they made the announcement. They rolled a TV in the back of that room. The stage was up front. And they rolled a TV in the back. And they said when they got ready to do the verdict that the press luncheon would stop. And then and that's what happened. They put that TV on. Everybody kind of turned and looked to the back of the room instead of the front of the room. And I remember being very crowded. And they put the volume up and everybody stopped eating and was glued to the TV. And they announced that he was not guilty. And I don't remember the total reaction in the room, but I know I was like you. He just got away with murdering 2 people. That's my opinion. Cato Kalin, who was the guy that lived in the bunker house, had his
wall, had the thump on the wall.
Yeah, he came out yesterday and said, "I hope he got it right with God because he killed 2 people." I mean, that's. I don't think everybody thinks he's guilty, but most people think he was guilty of killing 2 people, including you and I, and he got away with it. And all the memes are out, Satan waiting for the white Bronco to pull up. I mean, they're all over social media. But that was, and it was a big story before the internet got to be what it is now. Imagine what would be going on the internet in that long trial and this, that, and the other. Well, and I'm just going to say, one of the memes was like Jesus at the gates. And OJ's got the glove on. Jesus says, "I think it fits." Because Shreveport native Johnny Cochran, the lawyer, who said, "If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit." That line became, famous. But Jesus said it looked like it fit.
Yeah. My other O.J. Simpson story was 2016. I think it was like January, February of 2016. It was right before, few months before the Saints drafted Reggie Bush, with the second pick in the draft when the Texans took Mario Williams. But Reggie had won the Heisman, and of course he went to USC. And I'm down in Miami visiting some friends, and a buddy of mine's son was playing high school basketball for Gables High. Gables was this like rich little private school, small little private school. Well, O.J. Simpson's son went to that school and was playing basketball. So he says, "Hey, you want to go watch my son play?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I went, I rode with him, and as we're pulling into the parking lot, he goes, "Oh, by the way, you're probably going to see OJ tonight." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, his son's on the team. He comes to the games and stuff." I'm like, and my head was spinning because I always thought when OJ was found not guilty that he would have a rough life, that wherever he went, people would be rude to him, yell at him, "Murderer, get out of my restaurant," whatever, that kind of stuff, right? I thought maybe some crazy or some person might kill him, because they was mad at him and they knew he did it, and and all that. And it was shocking to find out that it was kind of the opposite, that he still was a star, that he still had his places where he would go and be treated like royalty. And he's played golf every day, and he had his buddies that would play golf with him. And he didn't have people running up to him, yelling and screaming at him. I mean, maybe every once in a blue moon, but he lived an enjoyable life, which was, and he had no threat of anybody doing anything to him, which was crazy. And so I always thought, I'd be that guy to tell him what an asshole he was, whatever, murderer, And there I was thinking about it. And it was like I had like 4 or 5 minutes to think about this. And we walk into this little gym. I'm a little small gym with stands on one side. And when I open the door of the gym, you normally have that little table right there where they're taking the $5 entry fee or whatever it is. Maybe it's 10 now to go in to watch the high school game. And as I open the door, there's O.J. Simpson is standing in front of me with his back facing me, and he's got on a Reggie Bush number 25 USC jersey. And you can't take a step in without touching him. Like I had to hold the door open until he moved forward. That's how the line had kind of backed up or whatever. And I was like, I remember being in shock, and I'm just staring at him as I'm standing behind him while he pays for him and his oldest daughter. And I go and sit in the stands, and I'm sitting in the stands with some other parents, and he's literally to my right about 10 feet, 15 feet. And I remember just the whole game, I'm watching him and I'm watching this game, and I'm watching him and I'm watching the game. And I remember asking one of the parents, how do y'all do this? How does this is just so weird to me. And they're like, "Yeah, I was like, do you interact with him?" Because nobody was talking to him. And they said, yeah, I mean, I went up to him like the first day and said, "Hey, I'm Bob's dad," and Ronnie, and that was it, and shook his hand. I guess I don't know if he shook his hand or not, but like that was it. And he was by himself with his daughter. Nobody was really interacting with him. But what I didn't do is I didn't yell at him and tell him he was a murderer. I didn't tell him he was a scumbag. I didn't tell him I wish he would have died. Like didn't say anything, and I sort of regret that, honestly.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like the whole internet thing. You could be brave on the internet, but then in person you might not make the same comment or a similar comment. But and like you said, you only had about 4 or 5 minutes before you were told that he would probably be there. Where had you been told the night before or earlier that day, maybe you'd have had a different reaction. You might have said, "Yeah, I'm just going to say something." But no, I mean, he went from winning he went to a junior college out of high school. He didn't have the grades to get into college. And then finally got into Southern Cal, which is a private school. So kind of like Tulane with the business school, they probably slipped him in the back door. And then he won a Heisman Trophy as the first man to rush for 2,000 yards. And that's when he played 14 NFL games. And then the TV commercials, and he did Monday Night Football one year. And then, it all went south when he killed 2 people. But it didn't go as south as it should have, as you just described, in my opinion.
Yep. Well, I'm glad that part's done. And let's, who knows if now that he died, it'd be interesting to see if anything new comes out or anybody else talks about things or jurors come forward and go, "We knew he was guilty," but I'd love to know more.
There's been a big narrative where will somebody come out who, I don't know who, Johnny Cocker's no longer with us, and say, "Well, by the way, he did tell me he did it."
Right.
Like a Kato Kalin or Judge Ito, who I think's still around. Will somebody come out and say, "Well, he asked me to hold on to this until he was gone, but this is what he said." Whether that's, I don't think it'd be a family member, but it has to be somebody. He might have one of his old golfing buddies, or I don't know. I'm curious to see if that doesn't happen. I don't mean today or tomorrow. I mean, they've still got to plant him in the ground, but I'm talking about that in a year from now. Somebody go, "Hey, by the way," sit down with some news platform that gives us some money and say, "Well, by the way, one day after we played golf, we were in the clubhouse and OJ said, after I die, tell everybody I did it."
Nah, he's too much of a narcissist. He's not. If he ever admitted or said anything up towards that could be construed as him being guilty, it would have been with his attorneys when they couldn't say anything when they were meeting. That dude has convinced himself he didn't do it, as far as I'm concerned. And there's no way. His ego is so big. Hey, let me help out the Goldmans and let them know that, okay, now I'm good. Like, nah, no chance. It'll be one of those things where I'd be curious if someone from his defense team that might be alive still, because a couple of them are dead. Any of them say something? Would any of the police say something? Anything like that? But at this point, that's not much of a. I wonder what happens with his estate. Does any of that money go to him? Go to the Goldmans?
Well, no, there's a judgment against him that the Goldmans have, and because I think there was one time something about his Heisman Trophy was going to be sold, and they wanted the money, so then he didn't sell it because the money would have went to the Goldmans. I could be a little unclear on that, but
I know you can't touch his 401k and all his retirement. He got that, but like now that he's dead, does it automatically trickle down to his kids, or dead, y'all can have it? I don't know. It's just
he had 4 children, but one died as a child. So there's 3 living children. But I don't know if his estate has worked anything. Who knows?
I mean, Coach, he was getting $200,000 a year or $300,000 a year, or something like that. I mean, it's not much money, but everything he's got, anything he's got. I don't,
he needs to go to the Goldmans because they lost some son.
On his nightstand should be if he's got anything, right? Doesn't, after all the legal fees that he had to do and everything. But it's a horrible deal. It's definitely a crazy chapter in our history. It's a crazy chapter in sports to think that this guy was he was arguably, Tommy, before he committed those murders, top 5 most beloved sports figure in the history of this country. Is that safe to say? Top 5 most beloved sports figures in the history of this country. He was doing movies. He was on every show. He had friends across all races. He was a spokesman for everything. He had that great smile. Everybody loved OJ. Nobody didn't love OJ until what happened.
I would agree with you, because if you throw in a Heisman Trophy and the 2,000-yard rushing thing. Okay, by the way, that the only game that year that he didn't get 100 yards was in Tulane Stadium against the Saints. He had like 80 yards, but then still had over 2,000 in a 14-game season. I might have to agree with you. He was one of the marquee sports figures in the world. I mean, he was up there with Ali and Pele, maybe not worldwide, but certainly nationwide.
I think like Joe Namath and OJ of that same era, right? This, the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But OJ took it to another level with Wide World of Sports and Monday Night Football and movies and Naked Gun and all this stuff and all the commercials. Like OJ became bigger than Joe Namath after they were done playing. Joe Namath was bigger.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that.
It's just unbelievable how the fall from grace and to what's happened to him. TK, tell us about Tremonti's as we get out of here.
Well, all weekend, boiled crawfish and live crawfish. Come get whatever you need, but all your liquor, your wine. Get some lunch today. Boiled crawfish, live crawfish. They'll be out at 4:00 today. If you want to come by and get some boiled crawfish, they're really, really good. I plan on being here at about 4:00 and having a few myself. They also have catering. On-site catering. They can take care of small events, large events. They had a big party last night. They catered. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, Jefferson Highway in Baton Rouge. You need to stop by.
All right, for Tommy, I'm Ronnie. Tune in tomorrow morning, 10 to noon on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge for Sports Shorts Daily. We'll be live at L'Auberge Casino in the Sportsbook, so come check us out. We'll have breakfast ends at 10. Lunch starts at 11. We'll be there till noon. We'll be inside the Sportsbook at L'Auberge tomorrow, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Have a great one. Please like and share this video.